Reed Sheppard with another takeover as he ignites the Rockets' biggest comeback win of the season, down 19 against the Magic. And everyone can see it except for apparently Ime Udoka. Reed Sheppard needs to start for this team. It's all coming up right here at Locked On Rockets.
This is Mission Control, Houston.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's up and welcome to another edition of Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now the #1 sports podcast network. As always, I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, native Houstonian and credentialed media member. Be sure to follow along wherever you listen to your podcasts or on YouTube. Just search Locked On Rockets. On today's show, we're talking about the Rockets 113-108 come from behind win against the Magic, their biggest comeback of the season, courtesy of Reed Sheppard, who has yet another takeover where the Rockets look completely dead in the water, down 19, and he ignites the comeback in the third quarter. We'll talk about the effect he had on this game, talk about the fact that Reed Sheppard needs to start. Ime Udoka needs to just start the kid at this point. It's getting ridiculous. Kevin Durant's 40-piece, Josh Okogie over Dorian Finney-Smith in the second half of this game, an adjustment from Ime Udoka there. Also, the Jabari Smith Jr. injury, a bit of a downer at the end of this one. A lot to get to from this game. First, I want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Have your cake and drink it too. Birthday cake flavor is back. No fork needed. Vanilla, cakey, caffeinated kick, and no sugar. It's party time. Order now at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. And as always, thanks so much for making Locked On Rockets part of your day every single day, whether it's on your way to work, on your lunch break, in the gym. Thank you so much for being an everydayer. 113-108 final score, a game in which the Rockets were once again dead in the water. And it took Reed Sheppard, I guess it's Isaiah Reed Sheppard, IRS, Isaiah Reed Sheppard, taking over this game as he's done multiple times before this season. Finished with 20 points on 7 of 11 shooting, 5 of 7 from downtown. Had 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, was a plus 10 in his 31 minutes. Reed Sheppard checked into this game, and the Rockets looked like they were done for, like they were straight up about to be cooked. Reed checked into this game with 5:18 left in the third quarter. And they were down 17, and Reed actually turned the ball over on that very first play, and then they were down 19. Down 19. And Kevin Durant was doing KD things, trying to do everything in his power to just keep the Rockets even remotely close in this game. And then Reed Sheppard happened, caught fire, and completely ignited this comeback. Rockets do not win this game without Reed Sheppard. They don't. And I know they call it when Steph starts hitting a bunch of threes in a row, they call it like the Curry flurry, right? We got to come up with something for when Reed Sheppard starts bombing away from three, because the threes that he hit during that stretch, that insane run that the Rockets went on in the third quarter, we got to have a cool nickname for it or something, because it's so exciting to witness every single time that it happens. And what's one of the most damning indictments of this game in particular, and of the coaching staff, is that in a game where the Rockets just couldn't hit threes in this game. They didn't hit a single three in the first quarter. They didn't hit their first three until the second quarter. And the only three that they hit in the first half was that 1-3. And of all the people to hit that 1-3 was actually Dorian Finney-Smith, funny enough. Rockets only hit 1 3-pointer in the first half of this game. That's 9%. They were 1 of, I believe it was 11 from 3 in the first half. Yeah, 1 of 11 from 3, 9%. That's abysmal. And Reed Sheppard didn't even attempt his first 3 until 4 minutes left to go in the third quarter. He hits that. But that wasn't the only 3 he hit. He hits that 3. Then he hits a second 3. Rockets are on an extended 11-0 run. Clint Capela gets a monster block at the rim. KD outlets it to Reed Sheppard. Reed Sheppard finds Clint Capela in transition, rewarding your big man for doing his job on the defensive side. And Capela gets a monster dunk at the rim. Then Reed gets a heat check top of the key three-pointer. It is now a 16-0 run at this point. Next play down, Reed Sheppard, who is not just a shooter. He's not a one-dimensional player. Completely breaks down the defense, gets Jalen Suggs off of him, shakes Jalen Suggs, who is an all-NBA caliber defender, mind you, weaves through traffic, gets all the way to the rim, and finishes. It's now an 18-0 run. Kevin Durant in transition and one finish, 21-0 run. Gets the Rockets back on top and in this game. And it started with Reed Sheppard checking into the game and knocking down those back-to-back threes and providing some much-needed offensive support to Kevin Durant in this one. The way in which Reed Sheppard makes life easier for the Rocket stars, for Kevin Durant and for Alperen Şengün, the way in which he can catch fire like this, and the way in which he just flat out wins his minutes. And it's not just, oh, he's just a good three-point shooter. No, he creates offense. Multiple plays throughout this game. Reed Sheppard creating high-quality offense. At the top of the fourth quarter, after the incredible third quarter run, after all the sensational stuff that Reed Sheppard did during that stretch, Reed found Josh Okogie for a wide open three. He dragged out the double team on the strong side of the court and then whipped the pass over to Josh Okogie in the corner. Three-pointer, bang. Reed Sheppard drive and kick. Jabari, three-pointer, bang. Three-man action between Kevin Durant, Alperen Şengün, and Reed Sheppard leads to Reed Sheppard threes. One of the best plays in this game was a Kevin Durant Şengün pick and roll. KD passes it to Şengün. Şengün attacks a little bit and then out of the short roll kicks it out to Reed Sheppard for a slot three-pointer. Bang, 109-102. Reed Sheppard needs to start. We are beyond the point where it's even funny at this point anymore. It's just sad that he hasn't been put in the starting lineup at this point. He is so impactful. This is the guy that the Rockets drafted number 3 overall, a guy that they have high hopes for, a guy that answers a lot of the questions that this team has, that he directly addresses so many of the weaknesses of this team. He's a viable point guard on a team with no viable point guards. He's the closest thing you have to a Fred VanVleet. And Ime won't start the kid. And not only will they not start him, it's that they've been ham-fisting the whole Amen Thompson at point guard thing all season long, and it clearly doesn't work. It has completely run its course. We are well beyond the point where we should still be seeing the Amen Thompson point guard experiment take place. We've seen enough. We have enough data. It just does not work at the level that it needs to actually warrant its continued use. There have been many moments this season, right, where Reed Sheppard has a game like this, these inflection points in the season where it feels like this is a wake-up call. Wow, he's so good. Like the toothpaste is out of the tube. You got to keep going, right? The Warriors game, the Suns game, the Pistons game, the Nuggets game. I'm sure I'm forgetting some, but Reed Sheppard has been such a important part of some of the Rockets' best wins of this season. And every time one of these games happens, it kind of feels like, how can you go back? How can you go back to status quo? How can you go back to the broken-looking offense and the terrible floor spacing and how things look when Reed Sheppard's not out there on the floor? The kid should be starting and playing 30-plus minutes a night, point blank, period. Like, the toothpaste is out of the tube, right? Or at least it feels that way, and it's felt that way multiple times this season. Meanwhile, Ime's sitting over there grabbing the toothpaste with his bare hands, trying to cram it back in the tube as much as possible, apparently, because it seems like he's the one guy that doesn't see what Reed Sheppard does and brings to the table on a nightly basis and how important he is for unlocking the true ceiling of this Rockets team. And we are borderline to the point where it is almost becoming a fireable offense that Ime Udoka refuses to play Reed Sheppard extended, that he refuses to start him and just give him the opportunity that he is so clearly claimed. The kid is so unbelievably talented and needs to be embraced. And the Rockets will be a better team moving forward for that if they just pull the trigger and make it happen. And let's be honest, it's not going to be, they're not going to bench Amen Thompson. It's going to be one of the Aries. Either Tari or Jabari needs to go to the bench for Reed Sheppard. And the sooner the team does that, the better off they will look. And you can avoid these games where you get into a ridiculous offensive deficit because you can have Reed Sheppard out there from the jump. It was a -10 before that run started. He finished the game with +10. Just an absolutely insane run for the Rockets to go on, completely sparked by Reed Sheppard. And to think they could start games looking this good instead of needing to pivot to it in the second half when it looked like the game was basically dead and gone. Coming up, do want to talk about Kevin Durant's impact in this game, his efficient 40-piece, Josh Okogie playing over DFS in the second half, an adjustment from Ime Udoka there. We'll talk about Jabari's injury, Alperen Şengün's play, and more. Going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by DoorDash. The season's heating up, and DoorDash has a way to keep fans in their bag the whole way through. Whether you're watching the highlights, the tunnel fits, or just for your favorite player, DoorDash makes the entire season more fun because every player has their bag. With DoorDash, fans have one too. DoorDash keeps your snacks stocked, your gear fresh, and your watch party vibes absolutely immaculate. Because look, there are some nights when your team just stresses you out. Let DoorDash become your post-game therapy. Sometimes you just need that sweet treat right away. From tip-off to overtime, stay in your bag and order on DoorDash. Get snacks, drinks, gear, whatever gets you through the season delivered right to your doorstep. DoorDash, in your bag all season long. And continuing on here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast, home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. Get Locked On Rockets ad-free with our Everydayer Club, plus a members-only Discord. Join at the link in the episode description. Go check it out there. Let's keep talking about this Rockets come-from-behind win against the Orlando Magic. And Kevin Durant was pretty awesome in this one. He had a rough start, and the Magic are a team that do cause some problems because of their size, their length. Defensively, they do cause a lot of issues. Jonathan Isaac in particular is one guy who, there are very few guys that have the length in today's NBA to really bother and disrupt KD. Isaac is one of those guys that does give KD, I don't want to say gives KD problems, but can at least contend with KD's ridiculous length and speed and athleticism. He's a guy that, at least if you were going to design somebody in a lab to try and slow down KD, Jonathan Isaac is about as close as you get. But KD finished the game 40 points, 14 of 28 shooting, just 2 of 10 from downtown, but a perfect 10 of 10 at the free throw line. He had 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, was a +10 in his 40 minutes of run in this game. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he started the game 0 of 6. Which is kind of crazy to think about, or I apologize, started the game 0 of 5, not 0 of 6, before hitting his first shot. So to start the game 0 of 5 and essentially finishing going 14 of 23 is kind of absurd, but that's, KD has a lot of nights like that where he misses his first, 3, 4, 5 shots. And then, I don't know, he's like lethal shooter. And he's just like, I understand it now. And then just suddenly goes back to being KD after a little bit of a rough stretch. But the Rockets needed every single one of his points in this game. And it was, even in a game where you're struggling, where the offense is kind of a mess, and credit to the Magic defense, right? The Magic are one of the few teams in the NBA that can truly rely on some of their one-on-one defenders to try and hold their own against guys like Kevin Durant and Alperen Şengün. And they've been shooting the 3-ball much better as of late. So they were more than willing to sit there and trade 3s for 2s and force Kevin Durant and Alperen Şengün to try to beat them in isolation, one-on-one, and that's it. And those two guys, to their credit, right, even though they had relatively efficient games, again, KD 14 of 28, Alperen Şengün 8 of 15, you're trading a lot of 2s for a lot of 3s because the Magic wound up hitting 15 3s in this game. And on top of that, they're not perfect every single time, right? It's not a guaranteed bucket every single time down from KD or LP. So there were stretches of this game where the Magic were just clicking on offense and the Rockets could not find a way to get stops defensively, in particular against Desmond Bane, who lit them up for 30 points. Ryan Hollins was begging for it on the broadcast. Like, you just got to go trap Bane, got to get the ball out of his hands. He is a certified Rockets killer. And so in conjunction with Reed Sheppard And the flurry that the Rockets went on, I don't want to say the word flurry because like the Warriors have like, they own that one. So we gotta come up with something else, guys. I need something for when Reed Sheppard takes over a game. Give me ideas, YouTube comments, please. It was also their defense. That lineup that was out there when the Rockets went on that run was working so well together defensively. That lineup was, where was it? I had it written down here because I didn't want to forget. Reed Sheppard, Josh Okogie, Tari, Eason, Kevin Durant, and Clint Capela. That lineup was awesome on defense. Clint Capela was a beast down low, contesting so much stuff at the rim. Clint Capela had he had a play early in the game. He blocked Tristan da Silva twice and then runs the length of the floor with the ball. It was not a pretty fast break and gets all the way to the rim and gets fouled. He almost made the shot. Honestly, if he had somehow gotten the ball in, if it had been a dunk, it would have been next level. But even if he had just somehow flipped the ball up and in as he was getting fouled, and if it had gone in to be an and one, that might have gone down in one of the best like sequences of Clint Capela's career. But that lineup with Reed, Okogie, Tari, KD, Capela, not only were they effective and efficient offensively, and Reed Sheppard was clearly taking over the game during that stretch, as well as KD continuing to put in his work, but it was also the defensive side of things. And I did appreciate how finally, there was a point where Kevin Durant, weirdly enough, was matched up with Paolo Banchero for stretches of this game, which didn't exactly feel like an advantageous matchup for the Rockets, because as good a defender as Kevin Durant is, using his size, his length, his IQ, Paolo's just big and strong. And there were a few plays where Paolo just kind of bullied KD and got all the way to the rim, and KD just doesn't have the bulk to keep Paolo out of the paint. And it wasn't until later in that run that we started seeing a couple times where the Rockets would send two to the ball, force Paolo to kick it back out, or force him into a tough contested shot inside the paint with multiple outstretched arms around him, that kind of thing. So defensively, Not only was it on offense where they were just clicking on all cylinders, but it was also defensively. They were getting a ton of stops. I mean, it's hard to rip off a 21-0 run. Held the Magic scoreless for about 3 minutes or so during that stretch where they clawed themselves back into the game. So that lineup deserves a ton of credit for the defensive contributions and really big adjustment. And credit to Ime Udoka for this. But DFS, and look, he hit a three in the first half, but DFS has been such a liability on defense. He hasn't been able to keep defenders or offensive players in front of him. He has been, hell, I mean, sometimes it feels like DFS has been a bigger liability as of late on defense than Reed Sheppard was earlier in the season at times. Now, again, the perception's not going to say, the perception isn't that, because it's DFS, and of course he can defend and stuff. But when you actually watch DFS play, it has not been great on the defensive side of the ball. And then you couple that with his struggles on offense, and it's like, man, the Rockets are just getting killed in the DFS minutes. So I understand needing to play DFS and hoping beyond all hope that he can get back to some semblance of what DFS was expected to be for this team. But I do appreciate Ime Udoka. Maybe that's just the move, right? Is give DFS a few minutes in the first half, see how he's playing, see how he's holding up. And if it's not there, then go to Josh Okogie, because Okogie's been great for this team this season. Josh Okogie has been absolutely phenomenal for the Rockets this year, and he was solid again in this game. 6 points, 2 of 4 from downtown. Did miss all 3 of his shots inside the arc, although I think a couple of those were attempted tip-in shots on offensive rebound kind of deals. So I'm not going to harp on him too badly for that. But just good energy from Josh Okogie, right? When he comes in, his energy is infectious. He gives you all the traditional hustle guys, energy that you want. And the Magic, for the most part, as they were leading and ahead for the first 2.5 quarters or so of this game, they were winning all the hustle plays. The Magic were winning the hustle stats. They were winning the hustle plays. They were beating the Rockets on second chance opportunities. They flat out crushed the Rockets on the offensive glass, 15-10, and they crushed them in second chance points. 30 second chance points for the Magic to just 7 for the Rockets. And this includes a stretch in the first half where the Rockets ran the double big lineup. They ran double big with Sengun and Capela, and Amen Thompson was out there. And that was part of what led them into such a egregious deficit. It was just all right, here we go. Here's the no spacing affair. And here's the guys, you got 3 dudes out there who can't shoot. And suddenly the spacing went to hell and the offense looked bad again. And so I do want to give some credit to Ime Udoka for not going back to that and just doubling or tripling down and be like, we got to be tougher. We got to be more aggressive. We got to go get those offensive rebounds. We're not going to let them punk us. He leaned into Reed Sheppard. He leaned into the offensive lineup that basically got the Rockets back into this game and then won them the game at the end. And so that's at least encouraging to see from Ime, that he can see, the trends within a game and stuck with the right guys. I kept sitting there thinking, man, all right, here comes the sub out. Reed Sheppard's going to go back to the bench after bringing the Rockets back into this, and he's not going to be the one out there closing it, in part because I kept thinking, well, you can't play Reed Sheppard 15 or 17 straight minutes. He did. Just played him 17 straight minutes. And again, the parallels are so clear. It's just like last season with Amen Thompson. Amen Thompson was so good last year that Ime had stretches where he had to play him for 12, 14, 15, 17, 18 straight minutes because he was coming off the bench. And when you're coming off the bench, it's really hard to fit in that extra break, that extra chance to get some rest in between quarters or at the bottom of the third quarter, top of the fourth quarter, where you generally like to rest some of your starting players. So getting Reed Sheppard in the starting lineup would help with figuring out how to stagger his minutes a little bit better as well. Coming up, I do want to share final thoughts on this game. We'll talk about Jabari Smith Jr.'s injury, what it could possibly mean for the Rockets moving forward, and final thoughts from this one. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Welcome to the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow, or Cotton Candy. There is something for everyone. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and I've got my number one pick for the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft. And my go-to, my number one pick, the number one prospect on my board has to be strawberry watermelon. It's sweet, it's tart, it tastes like candy, it's awesome. There are some flavors that are just incredible, the ultimate flavor duos, and strawberry watermelon is right there at the top. Adding strawberry to watermelon makes an elite combination, and it is elite in 5 Hour Energy form. You can find your number one prospect, your number one pick. Check them out at 5hourenergy.com. Find your favorite flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots, whether it's mine, the strawberry watermelon, or another one, again, at 5hourenergy.com or available on Amazon. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena, the crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs with the fans. You can pull up the Game Time app and grab tickets for an upcoming NBA game in minutes. It really is that simple. My favorite part is they're all-in pricing. No surprise fees at checkout. The price that you see through the process from the very beginning, that's the price that you're going to pay. Full transparency. So take the guesswork out of buying your NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Again, that's LOCKEDON, locked on, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. And final segment here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast, home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. Kind of a quieter night for Alperen Şengün in this game, just 16 points, 8 of 15 shooting, solid efficiency though, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 block, 3 turnovers. Not an incredible game, also not a bad game, just kind of a so-so outing for Alperen Şengün. He had a stretch at the top of the fourth quarter where he had a couple back-to-back buckets, which were pretty important, and then followed up by a Reed Sheppard three-pointer that gave the Rockets a little bit of that breathing room as the Magic were trying to claw back and get back out in front, which put the Rockets up 106-100. And then there was that play that I already mentioned, which was the Kevin Durant to Sengun pick and roll that then led to a kick out for Reed Sheppard that put them up 109-102. And it's when you. The cool part about it is when you see those three players playing together, KD, Sengun, and Reed, it's like, it's not quite basketball nirvana because I've watched really good Spurs teams and I've watched Jokic play with the Nuggets and I've seen the Warriors play and I've watched James Harden ISO people to death and just get surgical when he picks apart defenses. But it's basketball nirvana compared to what the Rockets offense has looked like for most of the season. Right, when you have that ability to play, and so many of their actions should be built around those two guys. We saw some of this against the Kings last game. Actually, was some of the like split cut actions that they run with the ball in Alperen Şengün's hands, either, at the high post or at the elbow. And then you run split cut actions with Kevin Durant and Reed Sheppard because KD has so much gravity about him that they don't want to leave him open, but then you accidentally wind up leaving Reed Sheppard open, or maybe there's miscommunication and KD gets an easy hoop at the rim. Like, there's really cool stuff that the Rockets can do when you have three incredibly talented offensive players like those three guys to play off of one another, and seeing the chemistry that specifically Reed and Sengun are starting to develop together is really encouraging, because that's going to be something you need to figure out. You need to be this Rockets team needs to figure out if the offensive ceiling and the offensive production of that duo in particular, setting aside KD, right? Because KD's KD, he's awesome, cool. You don't have to figure out what you have with KD. You know what you have with KD. But the Rockets need to be able to figure out if the offensive ceiling of Alperen Şengün and Reed Sheppard sharing the floor together is high enough and warrants any potential defensive limitations that duo has, right? And here's the rub, is like, it really feels like on a night-to-night basis, if you have the right three other guys around Reed and Sengun, so KD being one of them, and then pick any two of Amen Thompson, Tari, Eason, or Jabari Smith Jr., it feels like the other three guys are all such great defenders, and Sengun, when he's motivated and playing his best version of basketball, is also a plus-level defender. They should still be able to be a great defense and also look significantly better on offense. So I just, it feels like this season, the rest of this season, and it probably shouldn't have taken this long to get to this point, but it needs to be about gathering as much data as possible to figure out what you actually have with Reed Sheppard and Alperen Şengün, because those two guys could conceivably be the foundation of like a top 5 offense for the next decade plus. If you can figure out, can those two guys coexist, and can you still have an acceptable enough defense with those guys sharing a majority of their minutes? Because it felt like earlier in the season, Ime was very reluctant to play those guys together because of the supposed defensive limitations of each of them, right? And when Sengun was slumping and struggling and not playing his best basketball, I understand that. Reed Sheppard earlier this year, when he was getting targeted constantly on defense and when he wasn't as solid as he is now, I understand it. I get it. And there's still probably an argument to be had that Reed Sheppard does benefit more from having a defensive big man behind him like a Clint Capela to be able to clean up some of his mistakes, or some of the plays where he gets beat on a drive or he gets bodied because the player is bigger, stronger, faster than him, whatever. But I genuinely don't think Reed Sheppard is going to be the type of guard that needs to have a defensive anchor behind him because he's just that bad on defense. He's not. He's never probably going to be like a truly lockdown defensive player, but he's a he's a passable enough defender now. And I'm at the point, his offensive ceiling far outweighs any like perceived defensive limitations that he has. Reed Sheppard just flat out wins his minutes. And yeah, he might give up a bucket here or there. He might give up a straight line driver. He might get bullied down low with a bigger player stronger than him, right? But he is giving you so much on the offensive side of the floor. And sometimes that's just the reality of the situation. Is sometimes a player gives you, XYZ on offense, and as long as XYZ outweighs the ABCs back on the defensive side, that is a net positive. And it's time for Ime Udoka to adapt and adopt to the net positive thinking and realize that he can't just rely on toughness and defense and all that he needs to get more creative about how this Rockets team can ultimately win games and win at the highest level, mind you. I do want to point out the kind of bummer from this game, which weirdly enough, like Tari went out with like what looked like an ankle injury, and it was like, all right, here we go again. Tari Eason hurt, can't stay healthy. This sucks. And he limped off the court. He's getting checked over by the Rockets medical staff. And then Jabari, a couple minutes later, Jabari Smith Jr. On what looked like, and this is the fear, is what looked like a non-contact injury. Jabari started reaching for his heel. And that's never a good sign, although he was able to walk off the court gingerly, kind of limped his way off the court, which is a very encouraging sign that it's not something more severe. So I don't think it's going to be like an Achilles tear or anything crazy like that. Hopefully it's just cramping. I didn't see an update from the team or from any media members that were traveling, about what's going on with Jabari. So hopefully it's nothing serious, but the minor silver lining here, and then also Tari Eason checking back into the game is a good sign. So maybe Tari just, rolled his ankle temporarily or something, or just a slight, I don't know, whatever. Hopefully it's nothing that keeps Tari out for an extended period, because he's just been battling such an array of injuries through his career. The only knock on Tari as a player at this point is that he just can't stay healthy consistently. That's really the only downside to him. But silver lining on the potential Jabari injury is if it forces Jabari to miss any amount of time, even if it's just something short, like a week or two, it presents an opportunity for Ime Udoka to be forced into playing Reed Sheppard more. And what's funny is it really kind of felt like the absence of Fred was going to force Ime's hand in the first place to play Reed Sheppard this season. And obviously Reed Sheppard has played considerably more than he would have had Fred VanVleet been healthy and available. But it still hasn't forced Ime's hand enough to insert Reed into the starting lineup, funny enough. So this is another opportunity where if Jabari's hurt, well, then there you go. Reed Sheppard gets put into the starting lineup. But the fact that Reed hasn't just been included in the starting lineup with an all hands on deck mentality, like with all guys available, the Rockets have yet to see a game where Reed Sheppard, A, starts, and B, everybody that's supposed to be a part of the rotation is actually available. So we don't even have the right data sets in front of us to basically see like, oh, well, if Reed Sheppard starts and you can like do these substitution patterns and you can bring Jabari off the bench or Tari off the bench, and you can stagger KD and Sengun and Reed like this if he's in the starting lineup. And they don't even know what that looks like, because they haven't had a game where everybody's been available and Reed has also started. It's either Kevin's missed a game, or Amen has missed a game, or Şengün has missed a game, or one of the Aries have missed a game, or Okogie's out, or whatever. Like, it's always somebody is missing in order for Reed Sheppard to get the nod to be in the starting lineup. And that just can't, we're so far beyond that point now. So hopefully it's nothing serious for Jabari, especially because he's been playing so well as of late. And the Rockets they need his size, they need his shooting, they need his rebounding. They need Jabari Smith Jr. to be like, he is very much an X factor for this Rockets team. But if this Jabari injury is the doorway for Reed Sheppard to be inserted into the starting lineup and for us to see this team take off as a result of it, then sorry, Jabari, just hang out on the bench for like a week or two. Get right, get better, and then come back and then figure out whether it's moving forward. It's Tari permanently in the starting lineup, Jabari permanently in the starting lineup, Amen permanently in the starting lineup, whatever. But the three guys who should absolutely, without a doubt, be in the starting lineup should be Alperen Şengün, Kevin Durant, and Reed Sheppard. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. We are so far beyond it at this point in the season. And then speaking of Amen Thompson, who may still not be 100%, although I will say it was interesting to see Ime Udoka elect to close out this game without Amen Thompson on the floor, and to give Josh Okogie a lot of extended run in the second half of this game. But Amen Thompson, just 9 points, 3 of 5 shooting, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 turnovers. And again, just, he had a couple plays where he got downhill and was able to get to the free throw line a little bit. But, maybe it's just, this is a really bad matchup for Amen Thompson or whatever, but just a really kind of quiet night where you didn't really feel Amen's impact very much in this game, right? There are some games where Amen is loud, right? With his defensive plays, his offensive plays, he's carving up a defense, he's getting kick out passes, he's playing an awesome brand of basketball. And then there's some games where you just don't really feel his presence. And this was one of those. This was one of those games where you didn't really feel Amen Thompson making much of an impact, if at all, in this one. And so it was the right decision from Ime. Ime pressed the right buttons at the end of the game and stuck with the right players in order to pull this one out and ultimately win this game. And Ime gets credit for that. As frustrating as it is that Reed isn't starting still, he gets credit for making the right calls and doing the right things inside of a given game. But I'm curious your thoughts on this one. What did you think about Reed Sheppard's performance? How did you feel about Kevin Durant's 40 piece? What do you think about Reed Sheppard being in the starting lineup? Is it time for Ime to finally do it? It feels like it's time, and it feels like everybody can see it except for Ime. So curious if we just go back to status quo after this one. But I'm curious all your thoughts from this Rockets win. Give me your thoughts in the YouTube comments. I'm over here wrapping it up. I had it in my notes. Congratulations to Kevin Durant for passing 32,000 career points. My goodness. 32,000 points for KD. He got it on an ISO 3 over Wendell Carter Jr., only his second three-pointer of the game. But a big-time milestone for KD. He's awesome. And it is really cool seeing KD pass all these milestones in a Rockets jersey, nonetheless. Like that's a pretty awesome thing to experience. So with that, comments in the comments section. As always, thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening. And we look forward to having you back right here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball.